Worked. Can you hear me?
Hi, yes, we can hear you. Welcome, Fred.
Awesome.
Hi guys. Hi Wolf. What's up, this? How you guys doing?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm great, thanks.
Wolf, how are you?
Living the dream.
I'm not sure if it was the scheduling feature that gave us a bit of technical difficulties, but I just ended that space and started a fresh one, and it seems like this one is working perfectly.
Cool.
Cool. I
I just
wanted to
shared it
ask,
out.
who's the fourth speaker?
It's the first speaker I had, but I don't see him here. I did say he should join. Let me just check if he is able to.
All right, awesome. I think we could start.
Yes, we can. We are streaming live on YouTube. So if anyone does miss anything, they'll be able to catch that. So we can begin, Fred.
Cool. Firstly, thank you to everyone for being on the space this evening. And thank you to the speakers. Thanks Wolf for being here, and thank you Tez for hosting the space. Today we're having another space on hashtag Your Money Talks. We're talking finance and relationships. This is quite a broad topic, so yeah, we'll be having a general conversation. Nothing really too formal. And yeah, thank you all for being here. Tez, I'm not sure if the fourth speaker has arrived, but I think we can just like dive into the actual chat.
No problem. I saw there was, I don't know, is it Greg that tried to join? He wasn't an invited speaker, so I just kind of ignored it. But for everyone that's here, welcome to our chat. This is a topic that rarely gets discussed in terms of finances. And Fred and I thought, you know what, let's try and have a conversation around this. And we invited Wolf over. I'm sure most of you do know him. To give us basically an outside perspective, because most of the times we have this conversation in a South African context. And I thought it would be interesting to hear this from an outside context. So just to let you guys know, this will be an open discussion between the speakers. And then towards the end, we will open up the floor for a few questions from you guys. We are streaming live on YouTube. I did send out a link. If you are having troubles staying in this particular chat, you can go to YouTube and stream it from there. You can pop your questions there as well if you have any, and I'll try and ask them on the platform as well. Fred did also suggest that we do allow you guys to tweet us if you have any questions, if you are shy, when we open up the floor, and we will ask those questions on your behalf.
Yeah, so basically what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put out a tweet to tell everyone that the space is on. So should any of the audience have a question in relation to the topic, please just put your question under the tweet. I'll be tweeting it shortly in the next minute.
Awesome. Wolf, I'm sure a lot of people here know you. I'm sure you saw all the excitement that was happening on Twitter when we announced that we'll be having you in this conversation. But for those who don't know, do you want to give us a basic intro?
Absolutely. And just first off, if my voice is a little raspy, I'm just recovering from some seasonal allergies. But I have switched medications a couple times now, so I'm hoping to get better soon. As an introduction, my name is Galv Blacksberg, and I'm the COO at Wolf Financial. Wolf Financial is a company that myself, along with several other people, are building, but I get the fun part of representing us on social media and as a brand. And a lot of people are behind me building the company. But for myself, my background is in finance. I have a bachelor's in finance from Drexel University in Philadelphia. I have work experience in private wealth management at Goldman Sachs, as well as private equity at Versa Capital Management. And although I thought my life was going to be a lot of spreadsheets, it is now spent most of my day on Twitter, interacting with people. It's my full-time job. Spend about 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day on Twitter. I run all of our other social medias as well, trying to do a lot of spaces and stuff. Taking a little break this past week to get my voice right, but that is a little bit about me.
Thanks for that. If I knew that you were having voice issues and trying
It's all
to,
good. I was hoping it would get better by now. It's definitely getting better.
yeah, if I did know, I think I still was gonna ask, seeing how excited people are to actually have you here. Um, just some thoughts on what you thought on the reaction when we announced that we're going to be having you as a speaker. How did that hit you?
I love the FinTwit community, and really, it's a worldwide community at this point. It's like throughout quarantine, honestly, I spent 14 months not having interaction really with more than 6 people in person, but thousands and thousands of people on the internet every single day. I send out, 50 to 100 DMs a day sometimes, networking, meeting. I was on Zoom calls, meeting people, new people every single day. And, you learn so much from everybody. So it's nice to see the love that's come around from the community. I had 100 followers in February. So it's moved really fast. Now, because of Twitter Spaces, I have the ability to connect on a more, I think, emotional level with people as well. I work with Twitter now. I'm a feedback person with them. I've done collaborations with Twitter Spaces, the official account. So it's just really great to see, the love that comes back, because that's all I try to put out from my account. I never try to get into any arguments or take any difficult stances or anything like that. I just really want to have a good time and fun on here, because that's what I want the image of my brand to be. When I started this company account, I never wanted it to be like a we account, because nobody really wants to be friends with a brand. I just wanted to give it a personality.
Awesome. I see our fourth speaker has joined us, Rap Nerd. For those of you who were part of my first conversation, which I had on Telegram, I had it with Julius, the accountant, and that's him. And I'm sure most of you know Fred as well. Me and Fred are the usual suspects when it comes to hosting our spaces. And then there's me, of course, and we have Wolf. Julius, do you want to give us a brief intro for those who didn't get to know you in our initial talk?
Hey, it is Fred. Thanks for having me again. I think, like I said, during the first time I was invited to sort of one of these chats, I think it's just been wonderful watching this community grow. And I think, when Tez invited me to speak again, I was excited at the opportunity. Listening to Wolf speak now as well, to be honest, I'm very excited about listening to and learning and hearing a different perspective on some of the topics that we touch on quite often. Yeah, but for those of you guys who don't know me, I am basically an accountant. I've sort of been in my role for quite a few years. I've spent some time, obviously, going through the entire chartered accountancy stream, eventually working at one of the big four firms, big consulting company locally, looking at some of the major JSE listed companies on a consulting basis. Yeah, previously an auditor in my previous life. Hopefully, we don't need to touch on that at all.
I don't think this is a space to touch on that. But thanks for the idea for the next space. I think we'll dive into what it takes to be an auditor. So, Wolf, I know you host a lot of spaces. I'm not sure how long they usually last. But here we have a bad tendency of going overboard with time. And I know we didn't discuss the time constraints on your side, but whenever you are ready to leave, you can let us know. I think Fred also has like an hour, 30 minutes. I'm not sure about Julius, but I'll be here sailing the ship until everyone decides to leave. Usually tends to reach 4 hours, but I'll try my best to not let it go that far. So just the format of this discussion as well. I didn't want it to be Judge Judy. So it'll be basically an open discussion amongst the four of us, and then we can hopefully add some questions from the people listening, and they can join in. And I'm sure there are some fans who want to say hi to Wolf as well, and we'll let them. We'll give them the opportunity. Fred?
Cool. Yeah, I'm just about to tweet the space. Should any of the audience have questions, please just put it under the tweet that I'm about to tweet. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Awesome. So let's get into it. So yeah, the topic is finance in relationships. This topic actually stemmed from the last discussion we had, and that discussion was around purchasing an asset, namely a vehicle or a house. And we had a speaker who was alluding to the fact that his girlfriend at the time broke up with him because he failed to take her financial advice. But he was satisfied either way because he got the car he wanted, even though he wasn't in the financial situation to get one. And then someone asked if we can stem into this topic. I specifically used the word relationships because I didn't want it to be boxed into one kind of relationship, namely the intimate type. And I was thinking we could possibly delve into the deeper meaning or the broader sense of the word relationship. So this would be family, friends, intimate relationships, and so forth. And just to get that clarity, I hope everyone is satisfied. Julius?
Yeah, no, I think, again, there's a fantastic topic. I think too often when we think about making financial decisions, we don't realize the wide sort of impact that it has, especially within the South African context where, we often laugh and joke about black tax, and, how we manage that as young people, and especially as we sort of develop our own financial freedom goals, we always need to sort of consider the considerations for the rest of our families. I think from my own journey and my own opening thoughts on this topic really stem around the idea of that transition that we each have to make at some point, from when we sort of transition from being dependent to becoming the people that other people depend on. A lot of people don't give it a lot of thought and seem to think that it'll be natural and sort of the decisions will make themselves. But I think exploring that part of everyone's journey is actually very key. And that's probably where I'd like to start.
Awesome. Fred?
So I've just got a question for the speakers, and it's pretty direct. I want to know from any of the speakers, what is your relationship with either your partner or your parents? Like, have you guys actually asked them how much money they make per year, or um, have they ever made a monthly budget? That is really my question to the speakers.
Awesome. Who wants to go first?
I'll let Wolf start.
Sure. So relations. So not currently in an intimate relationship. So I'm glad that you clarified that this can be multiple types of relationships. When it comes to parents, I have managed, just because I used to work in private wealth management, I have managed a good amount of my parents' money, just help them to allocate that to a couple different areas, whether that's stocks. I mean, my mother's actually on Twitter. She's part of the FinTwit community. She comes on most of my spaces, listens to them, trades based off of them actively. So I usually try to give her a shout out when she's in one. I think she's at the beach this weekend, so she may not be in this one. With my father, he's got him and my stepmother kind of do more of their own type of stuff, but I've definitely helped them budget. I'm an extremely frugal person myself. When it comes to spending, I try to almost never spend unless I have to. You know, I don't really buy food out. I almost always make my own food. I try to, you know, live for the cheapest possible rent. I don't need the nicest situations. I'm really trying to make the most of it. I'm trying to get in early with compounding, and I try to push that mindset towards the people around me, definitely. So I have 6 brothers. I try to help them out too with their finances. They're all in different situations than I am, but continuously just trying to help people. So I think when it comes to relationships with family, that's mostly who I'm helping, just because of my background and experience. It would be interesting to do that in an actual relationship. I know that, you know, I have 3 married siblings, and it's a very large responsibility to, especially I think kind of what you could go into here is marrying someone with debt that becomes your debt. If they have something like student loans, or if they have something like that, and that's just a factor, you know. And I didn't even think about that until I was talking with my older brother when he was getting married. He was like, "Yeah, I love her. She has $250,000 of student debt." I was like, wow. So like, how do you feel about that? And we had an actual conversation about that, breaking that down. And that's when I realized that, you know, it really is it's almost like a characteristic of somebody, is how they manage their finances and the current financial position that they're in.
Wolf, I just want to ask, has your relationship with your family has it always been like that? Growing up, have you always been open to speaking about money and in your family?
Kind of. I've always been a frugal person, you know, chasing kind of the pennies and dimes. It's always just been my personality, but I didn't really fully know I was gonna do finances and help manage people until probably around my second to last year of high school. I participated in, my high school ran basically a paper trading game where everybody was just put into this, you know, fake stock market game. You had like $100,000 to invest, and it just became all consuming in my life. That's when I really learned that I wanted to be a person in finance and in investing. I started spending really hours a day. It'd be like, oh, it's physics class. No, it's 9:30 a.m. EST. So the market's open. We're not doing physics. We're trading. And just like doing that in my class instead of paying attention. Still got the A's because I'm very anal about grades. Got one grade that wasn't an A in college, and that pissed me off. But besides that, I wanted to, I guess once I learned that and learned more about finance and started doing it, then yeah, I was really trying to help people around me. But it still took a few years, because I think everyone can relate to this who's in the financial area. You don't want to go and just start giving out financial advice, because then it's like, okay, what if it doesn't, you know, what if they don't make money? What if they're losing money? So it really took me years to learn how to build specific strategies. And this is what I learned at Goldman Sachs. Was I learned that we have different types of portfolios, ranging from the people who are very risk averse to people who are very risk forward. And you can build different types of things. And now I've, you know, versed myself in areas like decentralized finance, where you can stake money and earn 9% APY compounding monthly with no risk if you know how to do it right. And, you know, different areas and how to build, okay, my portfolio is going to be 30% in this. And so now I'm a lot more comfortable with helping people manage their finances. than I was years earlier. It just took me time. I needed to get comfortable myself with a few years of experience before I went out and really pushed it to others. But yeah, now I'm pretty happy to help family.
Cool, thanks. Before I let the other speakers answer the question, I have put out the tweet. So if any of the audience have questions to ask, please just go and write the questions under the tweet. I see Mr. Dre has asked a question, but I'll tell the question after all the speakers have answered the previous question.
Julius, you can go next. I'll go after you.
Yeah, it is. I think, to be honest with you, I was a little bit distracted by $250,000 in student debt. I just I just did the math. It's about 3.5 million rand. But yeah, no. Anyway, I think, to be honest with you, I think like conversations about money were always difficult. I think growing up, I think, coming from a humble background, where you sort of growing up when you're younger, you don't actually realize the struggle. Because being a child growing up, all you see is what's around you. So if everyone else is in the same circumstance, in the same situation, you don't actually feel the lack of anything until maybe you're much older. By the time I was sort of conscious of cash, I was probably very late in high school, or maybe even approaching varsity. That's when I sort of needed to put my own little coins together. But I think the good thing about us at home is, coming from a humble background, everyone was already pretty frugal in their spending. We didn't want for much because we weren't really exposed to it to begin with, and so I carried that forward, to be honest. When I got my first job, as an article clerk and a trainee, I thought, and that's why, I thought it was a good starting point as well. I thought it would just come naturally, I mean, you go through varsity, you actually learn about finance, you learn about compound interest, you learn about, the benefit of starting earlier rather than later. You learn about, passive income and those sort of things, and you feel like you've got all the tools. So you just naturally think that these things will fall into place. But it didn't work out that way. It was very early on. When I got my first job, the first thing I did is I got myself a little VW Polo, which was probably towards the high end of what I could afford. Soon after that, I had the iPhone 6S, which was probably, again, towards the high end of what I could afford. And I was going out every weekend, living the dream. And it took probably about 6 to 8 months before I was living month to month again. And it was only then that I actually realized, that even armed with all the knowledge that I had from a finance background, etc., I was still making very silly mistakes. I wasn't putting much away, etc. But luckily, because and I say this with knowing that it's very different for different families. The expectations that were placed upon me as an individual from the rest of my family to support and etc. were quite limited. What I've always done back home is that pretty much from the first paycheck that I earned, I'd already agreed that I was going to give my mom a certain amount as a debit order, and she's never come back to me and said she wants anything more than that, which really helped when I know that a lot of people are not as fortunate as me in that regard. But yeah, I mean, it took a lot of learning before, but it was probably after 12 months of me working before I put together my first real budget. I don't know if that answers Fred's question.
Fred's question, I think it was around discussing finances with your parents. So I think you answered in terms of yourself doing the budget. Have you done a budget with your parents?
Yeah, so again, I think because of the way we've set ourselves up, we're quite open and honest. To be honest, I think when I got that first contract and that first paycheck, etc., I was very open and honest about what I was earning, etc. At the time, I still stayed at home. But like I said, I think mostly because of the my family's ability to actually really just be responsible. We agreed certain things up front. Like I said, I was very open about how much I earn, and I said this is how much I'll send you every month, and that was about it. um, to be honest, as well, growing up, as we got older, we were given more and more information so that we could make decisions collectively about certain things. That also led to, like, discussions about what my mom earned, what my brother earned at the time, etc. And we were very open and honest about it and made those decisions collectively. But it was also a case of knowing each other and understanding each other. You can't have that conversation with everyone in your family. There were certain people that were part of the decision making process and certain people that were not. And that almost naturally came about as well from understanding the dynamics within our family.
Okay, yeah, I think that answers Fred's question. Um, on my side, Julius, you would know that there was that period where I was a financial advisor. And I think both of us basically had the same journey. Where you're studying accounting and you feel like the money making process is going to come naturally because you learn all about these things when you're in varsity. But I think I was put in a very unique position where I actually had to drop out and get a job, and that was the catalyst of who I became and my interest when it came to finances, I believe. But on my side, discussing finances was a bit of a taboo, especially I think in most African families. It tends to be weird, discussing finances with your family. I think there was only one instance where I wasn't working, or I was still in school actually, and finances were really bad. And I remember that one evening we sat down with my mom and we did her budget together. And that was the last time I actually saw her payslip. There was another incident where I was really short on cash in varsity, and I think we were applying for a student loan, and she gave me her payslip, which was one of the requirements. And to this day, I never actually opened that document because I wanted to give my mom the privacy that she needed, and I didn't feel I needed to know that information, and it wasn't for me. Personally, in my working career, I've never actually sat down with my parents and did a budget with them, because I'm sure a lot of people can relate, especially in a South African context or an African context, that having those kinds of discussions about finances with your parents could see it as being intrusive. The same way works, I believe, works in the opposite, where I'm sure some people wouldn't divulge their financial situation line by line to their parents. But obviously, it depends, like you said, on the relationship that you have with your parents. I think if it did come to a life and death situation, and the documents needed to be refilled and everyone needs to plan properly, maybe then we would have been in a position to do that. But out of that one instance that happened, it hasn't really come out that way. I do remember when I was a financial advisor, one of the clients I had, she was earning quite a small amount, and she needed help saving or investing. And one of the flags, or one of the big info that she gave to me, was that the bank card, or her bank card, she left it with her parents, and her parents were not working. So basically, every month she gets paid, they would basically use the funds. And the mistake that I picked out from the situation was that they didn't actually do a budget. So every month they would fall short, because the parents wouldn't know how much she's getting paid, and she didn't want to divulge. And I think like I said, it depends per family, per situation, if that kind of relationship is needed. Fred?
Cool. Thanks, guys, for answering that question. We do have a question from Mr. Dre. And the question is, where does everyone rate money in regards to importance in healthy relationships? So just before I let you guys answer that, for those who's just joined us, thank you guys for being here. We are speaking on finance and relationships. For the audience that will not come on as speakers later on, if you guys do have a question, please just post a question under my most recent tweet, and then we'll discuss your question. Cool. So I'll just repeat the question from Mr. Dre. It goes as, where does everyone rate money in regards to importance in healthy relationships?
I'll go first. For me, I'll answer in the terms of intimate relationships. I think that's what the question was aimed at. For me, it's a non-factor, personally. I've never gotten into an intimate relationship and thought about finances. If I did, then I don't think there was a point in that intimate relationship. But like in my case, like with my wife, we've always been open with our finances. And I'll just give you a typical example. Back when I actually had to drop out of university and I started working, I started saving like crazy, because the plan was always to go back and finish my qualification. And when I was ready to leave, I took all the money I accumulated. It was quite a large sum of money. And I was a financial advisor, but I didn't trust myself with that money. And we weren't married at the time, we're still dating. And I gave her all that money. And for the guys listening, this is your cue to take your sips. You can send your 100s after you've taken your sip, and I'll continue.
I think everyone listening right now is just like, who is this guy? He's amazing.
But yeah, so yeah.
I'm just saying, I think all the women on the call right now are probably thinking, wow, where was he when I was single?
I hope this is not gonna cause any relationship issues for the guys here, or for the guys that these women are dating or married to. But yes, what I did is I took all that money and gave it to her, and I told her, I don't trust myself with this money. I trust you. And I basically did a budget and told her how much money she should give me every single month. And that lump sum lasted 2 years, and in that transaction, there wasn't any point where I felt threatened if she was going to leave or anything. It was full on trust. And then in 3 months, she broke up with me and disappeared with my money, and I haven't found her since. You guys can take your sips now. Okay, but that's a joke. She didn't actually disappear with the money. We did end up getting married. I think she saw that I trusted her well enough, and she was ready for that dive. But yeah, so for us, like in all the years that we have been in the relationship, money has never actually been a factor in terms of making the relationship last. And even before we started dating, I never actually pursued a relationship with in terms of finances. Possibly because when I started dating, I was still very young, and at that age, you don't think about jobs, and you just you're in love. Money is the last thing on your mind. But I'm not saying that if all goes wrong and I'm forced to find a new relationship, I'm gonna go and look for the brokest person out there. No, yeah, I think it will depend on the situation. It will depend on the emotions. But I doubt for me money will be one of them. Yeah.
Cool. I don't know if the other speakers want me to repeat the question, but I'll just repeat it again. So Mr. Dre in the audience just asked, where does everyone rate money in regards to importance in healthy relationships?
If we're speaking to intimate relationships, I have not been financially intertwined with anybody previously, so might not be the most competent to answer. I think it would. I think it would play a part for me, but it would be maybe not, in the top like 5 things. It'd just be more like if I was becoming emotionally involved with someone, I think I would try to like help, is what I'm saying. If I saw somebody recklessly spending money or making poor investments, I think I don't know if it would, drive me away from them. It would just make me want to help and intervene so that they wouldn't be doing this, right? If they're going and they're just buying, I don't know, maybe this is a really random point, but like 10 pairs of something, like, 10 of the most expensive shoes, and they need to have the newest thing the day it comes out, or they need the new car, and it's like, okay, well, that's going to depreciate in value immediately, or this is going to happen because of that. And you might not know that, right? You might just be looking at it and being excited for this. But also, if we're financially intertwining and they're using my money and making poor financial decisions, it's going to rank a little higher for me.
Wolf, just a question. What if you're dating someone and they tell you that they're heavily invested in Shiba Inu coins?
With my money? Or is it? So listen, everybody can go and take a thrill and run. If they told me that they invested in Shiba Inu coin, I would ask what percent of their money they put in there. If it is, if they threw in like 0.5% and they grabbed, I don't know, whatever it's at right now, so like 10, 20, 30,000 coins, I say, good for you, have fun. That's the equivalent of going out to buy, a few nice dinners, and dinner's gone the next day, and that could be gone the next day, or there's some payoff. So I think everybody deserves a little thrill here and there. But if they were investing in it as a serious investment, I would sit down and have a nice little chat with them.
Thanks.
Mr. Wolf, you keep saying my money. I think for listening to Taylor's story, I think that's the first problem.
Well, right, that's a good question, right? Because but that's what I'm saying beforehand was I've never had it where it's intertwined and it's our money. It's always been, right? Well, I guess with parents, it's more of our money. But even there, even at a young age, I was already saving, and like I remember vividly, like even at age 9, 10, going through my room where I had, first of all, I would store cash in like 3 different spots. I remember I had like an old alarm clock where I'd taken out the battery and I'd store cash in the back. That was like my first savings account. And I would write like 5 times a year. I would count to the penny how much money I had to my name and like write it down in a journal to the penny of how much I had over and over, like throughout the year, just to see, okay, where am I at now? And this was before I was investing in anything. It was just, cutting lawns and, doing that type of stuff and like seeing how little I could spend. So I think there will be a mindset change when it's kind of our money with someone, but I have not had that.
No, got it. Yeah, and I think when I think about that question, to be honest with you, I think the first thing that always comes to mind is that you and your partner, whether it be an intimate relationship or family type relationship, etc., you just need to be aligned in terms of what your goals are. So if your goals are to spend and have and acquire all of these material things, then that's part of the discussion. You need to know that you're working towards the same things, and that's how you avoid sort of those problems later down the line. If you're a conservative spender, and you'd rather be investing and building up wealth, etc., that's all good and well. But if your partner is not on the same page, then financially your goals will sort of create such huge problems downstream, because we're you building towards the future, they building towards the now. And I mean, like YOLO, we're not all living for the same things, and we don't all want the same things out of life. I'm very much also aligned to you guys in my thinking, where, in terms of spending patterns and spending habits, I can be a little bit, on the conservative side. I really don't try to buy the best of everything, or and I don't aspire to all of those things. But at the same time, I also understand that if I was ever to be with someone who was not aligned to those same things, then it just wouldn't work out. So I think the in terms of that question, how important is finance in a relationship? It's not really about finance itself. It's just about aligning your goals, and making sure that you're on the same page about your finances. And it doesn't matter which way you tend to go with that, but as long as you're going in the same direction, you'll be fine.
Cool, thanks. I just got another comment from the audience from QS, saying that it would be great to have a female perspective, and I totally agree. So, should there be any female audience that want to join the conversation? I'm sure Tiz, that will be fine.
Yes, it will be. And Fred, this question was also posed to you. You are a speaker, so please don't duck and dive.
So, all right, I just want to go back to the actual question to answer it. Yeah, from my point of view, I think that where I am currently, by the way, I'm not in any intimate relationship at this very moment. I've had past relationships, but from my point of view, I think it is an important factor, and I'm very conscious about it. So, should I, in the future get into another relationship, I will be conscious in terms of what is my partner's mindset towards money. And I personally rate it. I'm not saying that that person necessarily needs to have a lot of money or they need to be wealthy, but it is something that I'm going to pay quite a lot of attention to. How do they treat money, and what are their thoughts on actually saving and investing. So similar to what Rap just said, if they're not aligned to what my vision or my ways of living, then especially in terms of money, then I don't think the relationship would actually work out. So that is really my take on that. I think I do rate money quite highly, but not necessarily in terms of my partner having the money, but more in terms of the mindset as to how they treat it. Yeah, that's just my take on that. So yeah, I just want to invite any female audience that wants to join the conversation. Please do so. I've got another question from Tabang.
Before you ask that question, I just wanted to add to the question. Like in my current relationship, money does have a certain factor, and I think it is an important one. And I think I was probably answering in the context of forming a new relationship. But I mean, in a current relationship, it is something very important. I remember when I was working as a financial advisor and saving up as much as I could. During the holidays, my wife went on holiday and I stayed behind. And I got enticed and I made a purchase. You know, there was this laptop I really wanted, and I was just like, you know what, YOLO. And I bought the laptop without telling her. And then when she came back and she saw that there's this new device here, she was visibly upset, you know, that how could you buy a laptop and not tell me, you know? And I told her it was like a spare of the moment thing. It wasn't that much. But I think that was a catalyst to actually show how important money is in terms of discussions. I can't just spend the money without the banker, being my wife, releasing or approving the expenditure, especially if it's a very big purchase. I remember there was an article where some guy bought a PlayStation 5 and told his wife it's a diffuser, you know, and he was forced to sell it. So I think, like, in that aspect of current relationships, money does climb up the rankings. You know, I mean, you don't want to come home and find that your wife bought a new vacuum cleaner. Now you have five vacuum cleaners in your wardrobe. Yeah. Fred, you can continue.
Cool, thanks. So the next question, sorry, for the audience that's just joined us, thank you guys for actually being on here. We are talking about finance and relationships. And if you guys aren't comfortable coming on to join the speaking panel, you can ask your questions. Just go to my most recent tweet and in the comments, ask a question, and then I'll pose it to the speakers.
Females,
So the next question we have is from...
If you guys do want to join the speaking panel, please do send a request. Any lady who would like to join us, it would actually be nice to have a female perspective as well. Yes, Fred?
Cool. So the next question is from Tabang, aka the JC guy, and his question goes as follows: for married couples, committed partners, do they need one emergency fund account or two? And he says asking for a friend. So I'll just repeat that again. For married couples, committed partners, do they need one emergency fund account or two? Asking for a friend.
I don't think we can really answer that question because we're all in different situations, so it wouldn't really fit the bill. I mean, some people are married in community of property, some aren't. So I think it depends around that aspect. I mean, Wolf said he's not in an intimate relationship. He can't tell us that, yes, have two emergency funds.
Thank God.
Can you? Wolf, what's your what's your answer? Or Julius?
Maybe we should start at anti-nuptial agreements or prenups, and maybe that's. I'd actually be very interested in hearing everyone's perspective on that.
I say you should have 5 emergency savings. I mean, just because it's 2 of you doesn't mean you have to limit it to 2 emergency savings. You know, if you can get more, why not?
So, Tiz, I know you're married. How do you go about it?
So with us, we look at we look at we separate it. So if it comes to stocks, right? If it's an investment, we put it in our separate names for tax purposes, obviously. But when it comes to emergency savings, we do it all at once. So it's all inclusive. There is no separation. I don't believe in out of community. For me, that's just advanced dating. I don't think you can call that marriage. But that's my personal perspective, if you're going to marry me, then we're all in, If we die, we die. That's the risk of love. Yeah. So we have one big emergency savings. It didn't make sense to separate it. So if there's any issue, we just take it from that one emergency savings. But when it comes to going out on dates, she pays.
Cool. Wolf, I know you're not married, but what is your take on that question?
I would think that I would have a couple of emergency savings, but that's not because I think that you need multiple stockpiles. It's just because I think that there's different ways to have emergency savings accounts. So for me, one of them would actually be staked inside of DeFi, decentralized finance, because that's something that my family uses now. And I earn 9% APY compounding monthly currently with pretty much zero risk, in my opinion. They cannot go down. I actually know the CEO and founder of the company that I'm using. I've met with him over Zoom, chatted with him, kind of grilled him, very reputable guy. So I would be comfortable using that as one safe hold. But then I also think that in a way, an emergency savings could kind of be a Roth IRA, right? That's something that you're not hoping to have to take out for a long time. But I don't want to just leave. I think that 6 months maybe, or a few months maybe, could sit in an account. But I live pretty frugal. I don't think I'm going to try to change that anytime soon. So I would want to have some within DeFi, and then a second one within some type of Roth account where it's not in crazy risky assets, but I'm holding maybe VOO, the S&P 500, or a couple of others that can kind of sit inside there and be earning. So I would have a couple different ways of going about it, just because I think that, for me, I never want to have my money just sitting somewhere not making me anything, because then it's actually losing me money. So to me, that's not, emergency savings, that's emergency losings.
Wolf, when you said DeFi, and previously you mentioned that you used to keep your money at the back of a clock, I thought you were talking about a fridge or a washing machine. And I was like, is Wolf serious?
No, literally in a clock. I took out the batteries to like a clock, and would stuff my money into the back of it. And then I had like a padlock for a while that I would put money into. It was like when I needed to have like my cash somewhere. Now I have like a fireproof, safe and all that that I got. But growing up, you got to be resourceful. I had like a lot of, I don't know, I was like a weird kid. Like I had a lot of different things running around in my head.
Cool. Mr. Rap Nerd, do you wanna take that question, or what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think the guys have covered it well. I think typically when people refer to like emergency savings, you're talking about you're talking about like some short-term type of funds that you want easy access to, but obviously you still want to be generating some sort of return on that. So I think, like the other speakers have said, I think it makes sense to always diversify your risk, but also to generate some sort of return. So if you could split it out and have it in many different places, then that makes sense to me as well. But I think I think the question was asked in the context of people who are married, and I think to be honest, most marriages are probably different, but it again makes sense that first of all, you are transparent with each other. But if there is a need to have, separate money sitting in different places because of the different risk profiles attached to each of the individuals, then that would probably be a good idea as well. But yes, I think the idea of putting all your money in one place like, the proverbial saying goes, you don't want all your eggs in one basket. So yeah, I completely agree with all the thoughts from the other speakers.
Um, I just have a question for everyone. Fred, did you answer the question? You keep dodging the bullet. What's your answer?
So, with regards to myself, I don't really have a specific answer because I mean, the question was directed to marriage, and I've never gotten married. But if I had to be in a situation like that, just thinking, you know, I personally would have them separately and have multiple savings account. I think it's important to have multiple savings account that have different purposes. If you are just keeping one savings account or just two between the two partners, that's fine. But personally, for me, I like delegating things into different categories. So it would help me to have multiple savings account that have different purposes. For example, should I be in an accident or my partner be in an accident, there will be a savings account for that. We could have a savings account for buying the dip. Should any, like recently Bitcoin just went down. So just having different savings account for different purposes, I think I would go with. Yeah.
Awesome. So I think, like in the way we structured it, Fred. So for issues like accidents and all that, we decided to go the insurance route. So we made sure that we covered as much risk as possible, and then we decided that the savings account would be for those that we can't, for those risks that we can't insure and are immediate. Yeah, that was the route we took as a couple. And I just wanted to find out from the speakers, and I think most people would be interested in this as well. And for those that are not in a relationship, this is the perfect question for you guys. How do you guys handle lending money to friends and family? Is it a no-go area? Are there rules you set in place? Do you write down a contract? How do you guys approach that situation where someone says, yo, I need X amount for X subject? Do you put terms for those funds to be returned?
Sure. Tough question. I think, like I said, I think with us, we're very sort of open and honest with each other, and we make our decisions sort of collectively. So if there's meant to be a loan in between the family, even if I'm approached by an uncle or an aunt or someone from the extended family, what we often do is, as a close family, so my close family group, me, my brother, my sister, and my mom, will usually get together and we will say, X person's asked us for, this or that or whatever, and we will collectively decide how to best approach it. Often the reason we need to do that is, especially coming from, the context of where we are and, South African environment, etc. Often family relationships can be a bit, complicated, and whether the discussion was between you and an uncle or you and a cousin or whatever, it can backfire against the collective, whatever decisions you make. So we've often found that, the best way to approach it is, between the people that, again, depending on the relationships and how close knit the group is, you need to make those decisions collectively and say yes or no collectively so that it doesn't sow division later on. So now that is the completely non-financial side of it, but also equally important. Now, when it comes to the finance side of it, often what we'll do is we'll look at it from a perspective of need Is it something that we also are possibly in the position to provide assistance with or not? And if it is, then often, to be honest with you, it doesn't become a loan anymore, because when and this is my firm belief, when you're giving a loan to family and friends, you often need to almost think about whether or not you yourself can survive without that money. The reason I say that is because, if in that if you put into the position where these people will not repay that debt, will it have an influence on the relationship? And whatever the threshold is that you've determined or that I've determined becomes problematic. That's the limit to whatever financing I'll ever provide to someone who's close to me. Otherwise, I will sort of often just give them advice about what other alternatives they can pursue. So if someone asks me for 10,000 Rand, and I know that if they never paid me back, that relationship is potentially over, then I would not give them 10,000 Rand. I'd say, look, I only have 5. If you need more, maybe speak to this person, maybe do this, maybe how much do you need it? Maybe go speak to the person that you need to provide this money to, etc. But I believe that when you're lending within your close knit relationships, you're often taking a risk on your relationship as well, and balancing that equation is very important. We have written contracts before, though.
Cool. So I'm just gonna, from my point of view, it really depends on the amount. So when it comes to borrowing, I think I'm only really willing to borrow what I don't need. And if it's a small amount, I normally just borrow it without actually thinking about it. But if it's a big amount, I have gotten into the habit of actually writing a contract, whether it's with my family, my mom, or whoever. And that's mainly due to my past experiences where I've borrowed money to family relatives and they have not paid back. And oftentimes when you do borrow and they're unable to pay back, there's really nothing that you can do, you know? So yeah, it depends on the amount, and if it's a huge amount, I do actually write a contract, or I would just direct them to, actual borrowers like the bank. That's just from my take.
Yeah, I'll touch on it too. It feels like honestly so long since I've lent anyone money. Not gonna lie, I haven't really lent anyone money in a while. Um, when I did, it was super small amounts. I think my only rule was I'm not gonna lend anyone money twice before the first one is repaid. If you need more money, well, pay me back. We'll make that happen. That was like my only main rule, I think. And then, yeah, I honestly feel like I just haven't lent anyone a lot of money in a long time. Small things, nowadays, like feel a little bit more like there's give and take, but with large amounts of money, it just hasn't happened. But I can imagine if someone wanted to borrow a rather large sum. I'm very much a legal oriented minded person. For my company, Wolf, I wrote pretty much all the legal stuff. I just put myself through like 3 months of banging my head against a wall, wrote all of our equity contracts, our organizational agreements. I feel very comfortable writing legal contracts, terms of service, privacy policies, all that stuff. So I would probably write something myself just because that's how I'm wired.
I think my sentiments are the same as Wolf. If someone does ask me for money, I'm very open. I do tend to borrow out money, but I do have strict verbal contracts on my side, where I will stipulate what the condition is, if you need to repay me or if you don't. If it is that you need to repay me and you don't pay me back, I never forget. And like Wolf said, if they come back, I will most probably say no. I won't even point them to the direction of someone else, because I already know that this person cannot be trusted. And I think it's also to avoid the situation of borrowing from someone to pay someone else back. I just, I just close off if the person hasn't paid me back. I'm not one to chase down for the money if I borrow it out, especially if it's a small amount. I think when I do borrow it out, I write it off immediately. And if it does come back, then lucky for me, I can buy some Dogecoins. Yeah, that's my perspective.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Thank you all for the audience for being here. I want to open up the floor. Should any of you guys want to join the speaking panel, please, you are allowed to come on. So moving on to the questions, I see a lot of people actually writing. I'm going to start off with, I think the handle is but his name is Karabo, and he says that let's talk about finances in intimate relationships. Okay, in many occasions, people have expressed how far they would be in life should they remain single. What financial advice would you give to someone who is in an intimate relationship? That's what Karabo has asked.
I don't give financial advice. Just repeat the question.
Cool. So it started with a comment and then it led to a question, but I'll read it again. It says, and it's by Karabo. It goes as follows. Let's talk about finances in intimate relationships. In many occasions, people have expressed how far they would be in life should they remain single. What financial advice would you give to someone who is in an intimate relationship?
Sorry, I'm trying to find that question. Did they send it directly to you, Fred?
Yeah, so if you go to my most recent tweet, in the comments there, you'll find that question. I think it's...
Yeah, no, look, I think listening to the question, right, I think from my perspective anyway, the first comment, which basically talks about how rich people would have been had they remained single, I think to address that comment, from my perspective, I don't necessarily agree. What I mean by that is that like Ted was saying a bit earlier, where he'd saved up quite a big lump sum, but didn't trust himself with the money towards the end of it, and he was able to sort of ask his partner to help him manage his finances for a bit. I think that's quite important to note, and I think even in my own perspective, I think when you've got someone who you can trust and who gives you valid input, often having a partner can actually make things a little bit easier. What I mean by that is also, like, if you think about the power of combined income, having a partner who you trust and your goals are aligned, etc., is almost a bit of compounding without having to do all the compounding interest exercises on your own, because now you've got two incomes coming into one household. What that means is that you can achieve some of your goals, especially if they're aligned, with a little bit more acceleration. So you can actually do things a bit quicker, with the right partner. So that's just to address the first part. I think the second part of the question, which is, I think, where he asks, how would you advise someone who is single? Or then I think the easy thing to say there is, sorry,
Can I just I just want to repeat the question. The question actually goes as follows. What financial advice would you give someone who's in an intimate relationship?
Oh, sorry. Then I guess it's the first part of my answer. Speak to each other, align your goals, and build together.
I kind of agree with Julius. I mean, it's very difficult to answer that question because marriages are different. That question assumes that in all marriages, maybe both partners are employed. I know in the South African context that you do have cases where you have home executives and one partner is not employed. So one would answer that question very differently, especially considering what state they would be in. So it's a very difficult question to answer broadly. But assuming that both people are married, you also then have to look at the finances, who's in debt and who isn't at the start of the relationship. Who's the reckless one? Are you guys speaking to each other financially? And then, the answer then starts to evolve. So like the advice you would give to someone who's married is, handle the finances in that relationship. And if you handle it well, you could go far. Don't be the guy that buys Shiba Inu with the bond money or the car payment and then throwing the relationship down the line. So it depends on the relationship. I'm very reluctant to give relationship advice because it's very different. You have to know the dynamics and the rules of engagement of that relationship. That's just my take. On that note, Fred, I don't know if Wolf wants to tackle this question.
No, I think you all covered it pretty well. I'm not going to try to give too much advice in that area personally.
Okay. Noni did send through a thread. She wanted to give us a female perspective. She was trying to join the chat, but I think she had technical difficulties in that aspect. So I will read out what she tweeted. Female perspective on whether finances are an important part in a relationship. In my view, I was already in a relationship, and because I have a finance background, my partner assumed that I had it covered. Meanwhile, my money mindset and relationship with money was basically non-existent. I still paid my bills, but I was in a debt trap. My partner would bring up finances and I'd switch off or just say I've got it covered. Going forward, I know that finances are a topic to bring up, indirectly in the beginning, but as the relationship progresses, we can directly discuss financial goals amongst other goals, and we then work towards them as a couple until marriage, where applicable. If your partner knows your relationship with money and vice versa, then you'll both understand each other's lifestyle choices. Then one won't feel pressured to adjust to the other's lifestyle. That was the perspective from the female side, from Noni. If there are any other females that want to join the chat or anyone, please do send a request. The wolf won't bite. He's very friendly.
Also, just a heads up, I'll probably do the same as Fred. About 10 minutes will be an hour and a half, so I'm probably going to do about another 10. I'm supposed to be on another call around then.
No problem. We'll follow you, Wolf. Wherever you go, we go.
It's not a Twitter space, but I'm sure I'll have more this week.
Should we do it? Yes,
cool.
Fred.
So sorry, I'm just trying to go through the comments and questions under the tweet. We've got another question from QS, who's female, and her question goes as follows. Have you ever been in a relationship where you are putting in all the financial muscle? For example, you pay all / most expenses and they tax choke, pay unkind. I'm not really sure what she meant towards the end there, but I'll just repeat the actual question. Have you ever been in a relationship where you are putting in all the financial muscle? For example, you pay all / most expenses and they tax choke, pay unkind. Yeah. That's literally what it says.
Okay, so basically, have you been in a relationship where you pull off the financial muscle? Personally, no, I haven't. I mean, I've been in a relationship where I gave all my money away and hoped that she would pay me back. I don't know if that counts. Julius?
Um, yeah, look, I think to a certain extent, when I started dating my girlfriend, she was still in varsity, so I guess I could say that. But at the same time, because we were both still quite young, I wouldn't say I had to do the sort of.
Oh no. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, YouTube guys, I got disconnected.
People grow, change, develop, progress in their careers. While some careers might not be stable for a certain period of time, you might lose your job. A pandemic might hit, so roles will change. And as long as throughout the journey, the two people are aligned in their thinking and their thoughts and their plans, I think those are the kind of things that will sort of evolve and continuously sort of try and change, and people will be able to work them out. I think this is where guys like Fred and Wolf can really chip in, because I think the question might be aimed at a certain point in the cycle.
Sorry, guys, we got kicked out. We're just gonna wrap it up after 10 minutes. Yeah. Julius, I see you're in. You can just send me a request and I'll make you speaker. Julius, I think you can continue with your point. Fred has sent me a message that he has to be excused. We will be wrapping up in hopefully less than 10 minutes. If there are any questions from the floor, you guys can send through your requests and I will make you speaker. I see Duncan did send a request as well, and I've made him speaker. Julius?
I think Duncan can go ahead. I think the last point was well made. I think the gist of it was that when there's difficulties, you guys will obviously need to support each other, and that only happens through effective communication, which is what relationships are all about. I think getting with a partner who sort of knows and is financially savvy and plans ahead, and speak to them a wolf or a Fred the investor, and gets the right type of advice in terms of what they're doing when things are on the up, prevents those downs from happening. So yeah.
Thanks, Julius. Duncan?
Yeah. Hey, guys. I actually just wanted to come up here and mention, I heard the question. Sorry. And I'm married. I've been married for 2 years now. I have a 6-month-old. I currently work in commercial real estate. And for the past 2 years or so, my wife has been a stay-at-home mom. So I am the financial muscle from the previous question. So I thought to Ravner's point, like, communication is key in every relationship, whether it's financial, anything in a relationship. You have to have good communication, and that's the number one aspect when it comes to having a successful relationship. Without communication, you are not going to have honesty. And I would like to just throw it out there. If anyone out there can land a good gig, if they're planning on starting a family, being able to manage finances from one partner and letting that other partner, especially if you're having children, letting that other partner, be a parent, be there for the child, not sending them off to daycare. I highly recommend it. Obviously, everybody's situation is different, but that's just my personal take on kind of what I've dealt with over the last 2 years or so.
Duncan, can I ask, in your situation, you being the financial muscle, how does the monthly purchases work? If you're doing groceries, do you do it together with your partner, or do you send her the funds to do it on the family's behalf?
So my wife used to work in real estate as well. So prior to her quitting her job, we actually combined our finances together. So before we were even married, like as soon as we got engaged, we made the decision to go ahead and combine our finances so that way we prepared ourselves for marriage life. And we kind of got an idea of what it would be like for us to have combined finances. Ultimately, that's, as you get married, you become one. And we thought combining our finances together would be the best solution to kind of get an idea of what that would be like. So that's what we did initially. Obviously, we're married, so she has access to my funds. My funds are her funds. So we have, the same bank account. She doesn't really keep up so much with what's in the bank. But she does, again, going back to communication, like she, for instance, like this past weekend, she's out of town and she'll shop, grab a few things for, reaches out to me prior and just makes sure that like it's okay, and just kind of gets that confirmation from me. But again, it's communication. She does things on her own, but she lets me know prior to spending any money, so that way, she doesn't keep up with all the bills and everything. So she just has to know that we're good on our end when it comes to paying for the bills, but also having extra money to spend or get groceries, etc.
Duncan, I must ask, sir, would you buy a laptop without letting her know?
Say that again.
Would you buy a laptop without letting her know?
Would I buy a laptop without letting her know?
Yeah,
oh yeah,
no.
I mean, she knows. If I want to buy something, I just buy it. I mean, I don't have to tell her.
I think Rapner is alluding to the fact that I did that once and I got a tongue lashing. Wolf, I just want to ask, you did say you're not in an intimate relationship right now, but if you were, how would you have approached that if you were the financial muscle?
I would take a very structured approach, I'd like to think, but I'll have to find out via experience. I think that there's different stages to it also, right? Because what is intimate? Are you saying, you're starting, or if you're married? I think if I was married, I would do it as joint accounts. You'd want to file your taxes jointly, have a shared account for that, especially, if you're the breadwinner or the financial muscle in that situation. In that case, with anything that's being done under, my name or with my efforts, I always just try to take a very, very structured and organized approach, because, it's not just you and, your partner that you have to look out for. Hopefully, eventually you have dependents. And if you start from just you and your partner, having a organized, clear system, it's going to be a lot easier to add dependents into that system, right? To have healthcare for yourself or your family, other benefits, in times of need, if something happens, to be able to claim whatever you need to claim for, if there's an emergency, right, to be linked. So that's just my my hopeful approach to it, but I can't, guarantee anything until I experience.
Yeah, awesome. We have two new speakers. Wolf, I do know that you have time constraints.
Yeah, I should probably say my goodbyes.
Yes.
Because my other call has started. I saw it was too bad. I was going to give a shout out because my mother actually came in here for a good 20 minutes and was listening in on this. And then when it crashed, she unfortunately didn't. Yeah, so I always shout her out. She comes into most of my calls, listens in on them, and hangs out. So it was great to have her in here. And she's mostly my financial partner right now is between me and my mom. So that's what I'm working on right now. Decently independent, but never hurts to have a mother that looks out for you.
Okay.
Shout out to the
working with
moms
his
out
mom,
there.
bro. Let's go.
Shout out to your mom, Wolf. Thank you so much for
Mama Wolf, bro. What?
thank you so much for joining us on this talk. And I'm sure you did see the excitement when word got out, and everyone just wanted to see you in the space. And yeah, hopefully one day we can do it again. But yes, I must release you now. We can release the wolf.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. And of course, just hit me up. I was only even, hesitant about this one just because I was recovering my voice, like I said, but I am feeling a lot better today. And so I think within the coming weeks, I'll be full speed. And then, yeah, I'm always up for stuff.
Awesome.
Take care.
User error.
Hey, so I missed out on the original question, but I feel like just getting a sense of what everyone's saying, I can just kind of tell you my experience and whatnot. I just want to say there's probably no right or wrong way to do this, but in every way that you do it, managing money with another person, there's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be arguments, but you just have to work through those and as everyone's saying, just communicate as best as you can. But for me, so my wife and I got married. We've been married for almost 7 years now, and she actually was the breadwinner when we first got engaged. And so the whole talk about do we combine finances or not, and she was talking to her friends who were like, hey, your future husband doesn't make as much money as you. He's just gonna, take your money, which is a valid argument or worry, I guess. So that was just interesting. So that was like the first thing I was thinking in my head, like, if we can't combine our finances, we can't come to an agreement on where our money is going, why are we getting married? At least that's what I was thinking at the time. Because everything that you do in life is paid for with a dollar, with money, everything. Your housing, where you live, the job you take, how you raise your kids, vacations, food you buy, everything comes down to money. And, it's just the truth. And so I really wanted to combine our lives in that sense. And, now over the last couple of years, we've been making basically the same amount. But, I remember when we first combined our finances, it was tough. And I'm, a huge personal finance nerd, and she's very smart herself, but just not as into the personal finance world. And so I definitely had some weird stuff where I'd be like, we have a grocery budget of whatever it was, $160 a week or whatever it may be. And I remember like the first couple of times we went grocery shopping, we might have hit $180, and I'd be like, all right, we got to put stuff back. And she was so embarrassed to like, put a few things back when we were in line. I was like, I don't care what other people think. We're trying to stick to our budget, save for a down payment, do this and that and the other thing. So you just got to realize that people have different thoughts and different biases and different habits and different upbringings.
Yeah.
And my wife and I are very different in that sense, but we've come together and we've pushed through that. And not to say that there haven't been arguments and whatnot.
I want to ask, in your initial discussions of marriage, okay, we call it in community of property and out of community of property. I'm not sure how you guys call it that side. Is it prenup? Antinuptial?
I mean, if you were to separate like the assets before the marriage or something like that, I think it'd be a prenup. And
did you guys have that discussion?
No, I mean we had basically equal net worths that were not substantial in any way. So to like bring up the prenup conversation would just cause more arguments than not. And if I was worth $10 million or something, and I was marrying somebody that was I don't even know, just a person that just got out of college or something, has no real job, and I could support them, I'd probably start thinking about a prenup just to kind of save myself. But what's the point of if you have a $50,000 net worth and your partner has a $50,000 net worth?
Yeah,
it's just going to cause arguments, and it starts turning into like a business transaction more than anything, I think.
Yeah.
But
yes,
I was going to say in terms of like budgeting and whatnot, or tracking money, we have like guidelines on how much we want to spend, guidelines on how much we want to save, and then we do talk about things like if I wanted to go up and buy a
laptop.
Actually, let me step back. Yeah, I was going to say the laptop, but we also give each other allowance, and which may sound stupid to people, being mid 30s or 40s and getting allowance, but it helps us because then she has money where her Amazon and Nordstrom's boxes are coming, and I can't be like, hey, what do you use?
User error. Are you experiencing an error? We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying basically we have allowance that we give to each other. It's an equal amount. She can spend it anywhere that she wants. I can spend it mine any way that I want. and it gives you a little bit of that freedom where she can have like the multiple Nordstrom's boxes coming, and I'm not worried about this money get taken away from my future retirement or future savings goals or anything like that. So I'm really big into like setting categories and having kind of round numbers to kind of set your trajectory for your financial future.
On that allowance that you give each other, we had something similar where we had an allowance for each of us, but we still had a lot of funds available after the allowance was allocated. And I told my wife, I was like, there's no point to this allowance then if we still have this excess amount. We do our budget, everything that's meant to go anyway is gone. And, we have this allowance that we give each other. But then, we would still tend and spend in excess of that allowance. More especially because on my side, I don't really spend on much at all. I'm one of those one type of t-shirt 7 days a week kind of person. So we cut out that personal allowance, and the only agreement was if it's a very large purchase, we have to sit down and discuss it. But if it's those smaller items like a bottle of wine, you can just
well in those terms, like if we're out together and we say that we're going out to dinner, it's not like I'm going to be taking her out to dinner and using my allowance to take her out on a date.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be the same for her. It'll be like, hey, we go out to dinner. This is coming out of our quote unquote family money, as you would may call it, your excess funds. And we make good money, so it's not like super tight or anything like that. So there is a lot of excess funds, quote unquote, that we just we'll decide to spend together.
Yeah.
But my wife's argument, if we had too much excess funds and we were saving for retirement and we were kind of hitting all of our financial goals, she would say, "Hey, let's up my allowance. Let's up our allowance."
Exactly.
Yeah. And I have like a shit ton of allowance compared to her right now, because I'm probably like you. I don't spend very much, and
Yeah.
she spends as much money as she can on clothes and whatnot. But nothing's wrong with that. That's what makes her happy. And so
All women are the same
saving
then.
money makes me happy.
All women are the same. I'm in the exact same situation. Julius?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is where female perspective would be really nice.
Ladies, if you do want to
What are
join
you
the
guys talking
conversation, please do. I'm sure you guys are tired of this being a sausage party. Please send through the requests. Wilman, I see you here. I'm sure you have a lot to say. But yeah, Julius, do you do budgets with your partner, or you haven't reached that stage yet?
Look, I think we budget for certain things that we want to do together. So if we planning to do something, we'll put money aside. We'll try and plan ahead. We've got certain targets that we plan on together, and for all of those things we'll always just like plan. We'll say, okay, if we want to go to XYZ and we want to spend that much on a trip or whatever, then what we try and do then is obviously plan ahead, budget for it, etc. I think we almost at the stage where when it comes to our finances, we're quite open with each other about what our goals are, what we're saving for, what we're saving towards, etc. And almost making some of those decisions collectively already. I think when you plan to build with someone, that sort of always has to happen. So yeah.
We had a female speaker, but I think she got disconnected. I think I'm gonna call out names. Lady What Property, I see you here. There was someone else I spotted. Money Conversations. I mean, your name is literally Money Conversations. please send through a request and join us. Wilman?
Hey, Tez. I didn't want you to call out my name. Ah, really? Yeah, this is a interesting one. I've been dating for the last 18 months or so, and literally broke up yesterday.
Are you serious?
Yes, literally. Well, it was a mutual separation. No, what?
Hopefully not over
Chris
money.
Chris Martin calls it a decoupling, right? No, it wasn't about money, but money was one of those conversations that came up a hell of a lot of the time. We were both sort of mindful about money, but I was a little bit more willing to spend and enjoy. Yes, it's very important, obviously, to save and to have your goals as to what amounts of money you're prepared to save. But beyond that, one must enjoy money. You cannot save every single dollar. I mean, you can if that's the way you choose to live your life. But to take the approach that you're going to eat cracker bread and peanut butter for dinner, well, no, that just doesn't cut it with me. So that's where we would sort of, have those differences and those money arguments. And also the thing about, I want to go to dinner, once, twice a week, and and the other party is happy to go to dinner once a month, and I'm like, no, you just can't do that. So yes, money conversations are very important. These should be had up front. Especially where your earning capacity is the same. Therefore, your approaches to money should sort of be aligned, but that's not always the case because people have different experiences with money growing up, and that will often inform how they spend money today. So yeah, that was just some of my observations. But yeah, I'm strong, and I'm you don't believe me?
I feel like I just joined a support group.
No, money is just money, guys. I mean, yes, it needs to pay for a future, but yeah, you can't forget about the now.
Sheesh.
I just want to say along those lines, like for me, my wife is probably more like you, and I'm maybe more like your ex-partner. But I've got to say, my wife pushes me to spend more money than I would normally do it, and I've had some great experiences because of that. So it's good that there's like the yin and yang, at least in our relationship. It can cause some issues, but overall, it's been great. I mean, I've done more things and experienced more things than I would have if I was just living by myself, eating like top ramen all day.
Yeah, you see, the thing is, like, for example, the Sunday afternoons, you're going to your family for lunch and whatever. Like, if you're taking something, wine or whatever, don't expect me to pay for every single Sunday. Like, come on, those people every now and then. Don't be that cheapskate. Like, really, that pisses me off. So that was sort of what I was experiencing a lot of the time. It's like all those little things, like. Yeah, especially if you're earning the same salary, sort of, same
Yeah.
age group. Check yourself. Cracker bread and peanut butter for dinner? No.
Yeah.
This is completely off topic, but what caused the breakup after 18 months? I think that's the elephant in the room.
No, right? Say it proudly.
But at least you're not depressed. But if I had known that you just went through a mutual separation, I probably wouldn't have called you out. But yeah, thanks for sharing, and I think we're glad to know that money wasn't the issue for your separation. And I think if it was, you would have probably thought that God was sending you a sign that after your breakup, here's Tez having a topic about money and relationships. But yeah, for the ladies, if you do want to join the space, please do send through a request. We are craving to hear a female voice. Yeah. Otherwise, we will just close the session. You know, on the topic of buying things, I actually don't remember when I actually went to a clothing store and bought a piece of clothing. Usually on a random day, my wife will just give me a box and say, "Hey, I bought you new clothes," you know, and it's usually always the same, always almost the same kind of item. And I think it's mostly because I'm not interested in clothing, because when she says, "You know what, you need a new top," I'll be like, "You know what, I've got 5 others. They should last for another 2 years, I'm sure." And she's always the decision maker. I'm sure, Julius, you've seen my style has changed. It's not me at all. I just wear what I'm given.
Gosh, no, very different to me, to be honest. I don't mind spending on clothes at all. But yeah, no, I think, looking at and listening to the stories as well that have been coming about, I was actually really listening to what Duncan was saying a bit earlier. And I think, he mentioned, a little bit about his journey with his wife as well, and how they sort of, or how he was sort of the breadwinner in that relationship. I think, going back to that bit of the discussion, I think it's actually quite interesting to see how people's journeys, go in different directions. Listening to User Era now, he speaks, sort of where, they both earn a similar amount, and how that's led to their decision making. And I'm almost listening to this, comparing it to what Duncan was saying a little bit earlier, and I can tell that, like, there are no right and wrong answers. There's no fixed structure that you need, but the one thing that's always important is communication. And I think if we leave this discussion with anything else, I think that's the most important one. Is that it doesn't matter what type of relationship you're in. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about your relationships with your family, extended family, wife, etc. The most important thing that I've gotten out of this is, the need to build relationships off good communication skills.
I just want to say one thing that it reminded me of just real quick, is, for, usually a woman may be a stay-at-home mom, is more likely than, the dad. And I just really want to say, and I have 2 daughters, that, like, if you're a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home partner, whatever it is, you should still have 50% of the say in everything. Just because your other
Yeah.
partner is making all the money doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, if my wife made no money, she would still get 50% say, and I'd be upset with some of the decisions that, she had and whatnot, but I'd go along with them. I just feel like some women, perhaps like maybe my mom, she got remarried and whatnot, doesn't feel comfortable, speaking up, or doesn't feel that she has enough skin in the game, I guess, to really be jumping into the finances very much. But everybody should. A marriage or a relationship is a partnership, and you need to speak up for yourself, and don't ever feel like, you're not worth as much or don't have as much say as your partner. So I just had to say that.
We had a female speaker and she got disconnected again. I've just sent her a request. User Error, I agree 100%. I keep telling my wife that I don't mind being a house husband. She can bring in all the funds, and I'll stay at home. I really don't mind. Tembi, please bless us with your beautiful voice.
Hi, Taz. Thank you for having this space. Well, I'm not bringing a female perspective because I'm not in a relationship, so I wouldn't know how it works.
But you are female.
I have a question. Anyways, I have a question with regards to how do you handle the expectations of the extended family in the relationship, where maybe the wife or the husband has to was a breadwinner for their family before you get married. How do you deal with such things? Um,
Um, in with me, I was fortunate enough that her family fell in love with me before we even got married. So that expectation was immediately disqualified. And for her, I think it's the same thing as well, that my family fell absolutely in love with her before we got married. So that expectation has never really been there for us. Yeah.
Sure, Timby. I mean, you're touching on a very sensitive topic. I must be honest, and it is one of the things that I think is unique to some of the lived experiences on this side of the planet. But I think the gist of it is the same. Like if I was in that position where my partner was someone who was providing quite significantly to their family before the marriage. I think the number one thing is to manage your expectations. Just because your partner's now gotten married, it doesn't mean that the expectations from the family have changed. What that then means is that the two of you need to get on the same page as quickly as possible, and hopefully this is something that happens before you guys sort of already tie the knot and decide. But what would need to happen is that obviously you guys would need to get aligned in terms of what your expectations are for yourselves and for the rest of the family, because as much as the immediate family starts taking precedence, there'll be expectations that will be placed on him that he'll obviously have to manage. And if you try to get too involved in those decisions, it might breed resentment, or it might lead to sort of separating yourselves from each other, because it'll cause divisions from people who are important even before you got into the picture. So setting those expectations up front and then deciding on a plan and a way forward together is important. But it's even more important before you sort of decide to go ahead with any relationship, because those are the kind of discussions that I think need to be had when you're sitting in marriage counseling and that sort of thing.
Do the other speakers want to add?
Yeah, the State Capture Commission this week was very interesting. A former minister's wife was, articulating how the husband had to, bail out his sister for 850,000, and it was clear that the wife was aggrieved that she was left out of that conversation. So yeah, I think the important thing there is do not, exclude your spouse from, decisions like that where there are extended family responsibilities. It's really simple, it may be tough. Obviously, you want to help your family, but you're going to bring problems into your own bedroom. Should you exclude your partner and try and solve things with the family directly, as opposed to discussing it with your new family. So yeah, that's just one takeaway.
Awesome. Do you have a follow-up question? Does anyone have any questions? You can send through a request and I'll make you speaker.
Tiz, I think earlier there was a question from Squire M1, and she'd asked whether it was advisable to borrow money to your partner. And I think this is a partner that you're not married to specifically.
Yeah, well, with me before we did get married, I remember that me and my wife, who was my girlfriend at that time, would lend money to each other, but there wasn't any contract to it, if I can say. But I think it depends on the type of relationship you have with the person. I mean, if you've been dating for 2 weeks and there's already a loan request, it's questionable.
Run.
It's very questionable. Smiley, I don't know if after 18 months and there's a loan request, would you entertain it?
You shouldn't ask me questions like that, because now I'm gonna have to go back to a relationship that happened 5 years ago, and you're gonna think, this one likes relationship. But so yes, 5 years ago, I had a substantial amount that was being requested of me, and I put it in contract. I really did, and with terms and interest, I go for it. I'm not shy. My money is my money. So yeah, fortunately, the money was paid back. It did leave a little bit of a sour taste to the receiving party, but well, yeah,
They
I got
needed
my
the money,
back, and
so they had no choice.
they needed the money, and I had the conditions. So yeah.
Smiley, what happened to that relationship? Just let me know.
Look, well, since I was talking about a relationship that started, 18 months ago, you can tell, right? but I've got my money, my money's my money, dudes.
Did it end soon after the contract, or did it take a while?
No. We're still friends. We're still friends. But yeah, it does get a bit tasty, Anyway.
Q.
Hi guys. It's a question that I have. I'm going to explain the scenario as if it happened to me, but it didn't happen to me. It happened to a friend.
Okay.
So I was dating this guy, and my brother was coming to live this side, to study this side and look for work. And instead of renting a 2-bedroom apartment, I decided to buy one, right? Because looking at the listings, I could see that I could actually pay the same amount, paying the bond. So I'd rather do that than pay rent. Well, there would be additional expenses in terms of the rates and all, but it seemed like a good deal. So now, guy is perfectly happy, perfectly content, renting a 2-bedroom apartment in an expensive neighborhood and just living his life. And that's fine. So what I'm saying is I'd rather pay the bond than pay rent, because doing the maths with the bank, it adds up to the same amount. And then guy gets upset because now it's as if I don't have faith in the relationship and the future and the direction this relationship is taking. Because why am I buying property when we're going to get married, we're going to move in together, and he's going to get a house? Okay? But the way I see it is, I'm buying this property now and I'm going to live in it and contribute towards the bond. And if we do eventually get married, we can just rent the property out. It's not a big deal. It doesn't mean that I don't have faith in this relationship or the direction it's taking. So my question is, how do you guys feel about women making such decisions? Do you also feel like it's a step towards the wrong direction, or it's the relationship going backwards? Because I'm baffled how a relationship can end because of that.
Q. So firstly, sorry for that scenario you had. And I'm not saying you, I'm saying in your friend's perspective. But you said it in your standing, so I'll apologize to your friend. My initial understanding is probably that the boyfriend doesn't understand finances, because if he did, he would know that, later on, if you guys do decide to get married in community of property, inverted commas, that the property you're buying would probably add to the overall net worth of the marriage. So I think his anger stemmed from a bit of jealousy. I mean, if he could rent, it probably would have been a good idea for him to buy as well, But I mean, it also depends on the length of the relationship and how far it's gone. I mean, if they were dating for a significant amount of time, probably a discussion would have been had as a way of trusting each other. But ultimately, the decision to buy the property was still going to be yours, because you're not married. You don't need approval. So, I mean, if the relationship did end, it's probably a good riddance situation, and you could possibly find someone more understanding of the situation, and with a longer term thinking capacity. That's my take on it.
This is a topic for another day. Tez, you really ought to schedule this one in. And this is about it's about women taking, decisions, independent decisions of their spouses or future or boyfriends. I've in my circle, I've got 4 Black female friends that are struggling to find men that can keep up with them. And no, seriously, and one, in fact, I was having lunch with yesterday, and she's done the similar thing. She's bought a property because she's, at a much further, advanced journey than her spouse or her partner is. And he's so totally turned against her with regards to this decision that she's taken independently of him, and what it's doing, the damage that it's doing to the relationship. It's an emasculation type situation. So, yeah, women need to. We certainly need to discuss it further. I don't think we can do justice to it now. But yeah, good riddance, and big up to the woman that decided to buy the property, if that's indeed what she ended up doing. But yeah, it's certainly a struggle or a reality in South Africa where, women folk are just doing things for themselves, and this is wonderful. It's a wonderful, wonderful time that we're in.
Yeah.
No, look, I think I must just agree with Smiley here. I think it's very difficult for women to begin with, because sometimes you're in a relationship for a couple of years, and you're waiting for a wedding ring, or you're waiting for a commitment of some sort, and you hold off making certain decisions like buying a property, etc. Because you want to invest in the relationship, and you plan to buy a property together for that matter. I think there is complexity, because let's be honest, mortgage, etc. If you've got a mortgage, if you've got an existing mortgage, it might be more difficult to get one later on. There's implications like, how quickly do you plan to sell the apartment that you've just bought? Do you plan to rent it out? And if you did rent it out, how would that sort of speak to your ability to acquire debt in future, or another mortgage, that sort of thing? But the gist of it is, you can't hold off making decisions forever. And investing in your own future sometimes is important. And if you feel ready to make a purchase and buy a property, and you're not getting sort of the level of commitment that you can get from your partner, it just makes sense. At least that's my perspective. I'd actually really like to hear user era's perspective on this, because I think we're all now speaking really from a South African perspective. That would be very interesting to hear. What are your thoughts on your partner acquiring an apartment? Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't fully understand. So if they acquired an apartment without me knowing, I apologize.
So
Sorry,
let's.
before you got married.
Yeah.
She got an apartment before you guys got married on her own, entirely on her own.
Oh, and all right. So I apologize if I'm off base. Just mute me. But yeah. So she actually had a home that she owned, and it was in a different state. She moved to California. That's where I am. And then I had like interests in two condominiums. And like I said earlier, like our net worths were roughly the same. So when we came in, it wasn't like this one-sided thing, and I think that just made it a lot easier in a sense, and we really just combined everything at that point. But if it was like if she owned again, like multi-million-dollar apartment building or something like that, I'm sure we would have different conversations. But we didn't ever. That wasn't a reality.
I keep.
Before you continue, the situation is you guys are in a relationship, and then before you get to marriage, then she acquires the property while still in the relationship.
I see. It depends on to me. It depends on the values and how much your net worths are and whatnot. So I don't know if I can say anything intelligently on it. I apologize.
Q, if it was me, and if I was dating her and before we got married, and she acquired a property, I'd be asking when I'm moving in. I wouldn't hold back. I'll be like, yo, good on you. When can I come? I am ready to move out of where I'm staying. So for someone to throw that aside, I really don't understand what his issue was. He was probably very competitive, and he just didn't like that.
Homeboy probably thought he was gonna have to pay rent, dog.
Yeah, but I'd ask her like, yo, when am I moving in? I've got my bag packed. I'm on my way. I'm ready. But yeah, that's just my perspective, I guess. Even now, I keep telling my wife that, what, if you become CEO, I'm quitting my job. Like, I am done. You will handle the finances. I'm gonna go on vacation. I'm gonna go on road trips. I know you've got it down. I'm not gonna divorce her just because she gets a huge ass promotion.
My wife said that I'm not allowed to be a stay-at-home dad. I was all for that. She was like a man is supposed to work. It's like, I can still work with the two kids at home. It's work.
Someone's got to look after the kids, man.
We've got Will.
We've had our kids.
Yeah. No, you can go on.
Never mind. I was just gonna say. I remember Duncan was saying something about not sending his kids to daycare, and so I'm getting some echo. But we sent our kids to daycare since they were 3 months or 6 months since we both were working full time and whatnot, and that worked for us. But I just wanted to say that also because I didn't want everyone to be like, hey, I feel bad if they're sending their kids to daycare, because I know some parents do, and my kids are great kids. They're smart. They're smarter than I could have made them if I was a stay-at-home dad. They know more than I know in some situations. So just want to throw that out there.
Guys, I'd just like to clarify that everything I said was a joke. I didn't mean it seriously. I just noticed my wife is in the space. We have Will.
Yes, hi there, guys. I just wanna actually agree with Smiley81 and possibly bring some more humor to this conversation on a point that he made earlier on. So yeah, yes, let's have these, financially sound, intimate
Hold on, hold on,
relationships.
hold on, hold on.
Yeah.
Um, can you just go on mute, Will? I just want to ask you something.
Sure.
Weren't you the one in the last discussion we had that you said your girlfriend broke up with you because you bought a Polo with a sunroof?
No. She didn't break up with me. I think it was Smiley that said that. But I had a similar situation, but she didn't break up with me. We are married now. Like we
Oh,
have the kid. So yeah, it was just a lot of tongue lashings, yeah, you made a stupid decision. So yeah, it was it was one of those. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go on with my point now. Hello, hello, hello. Is everyone still there?
We can hear you, Will.
yes.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, so as I was saying that I wanna agree with what Smiley said earlier on. Um, so yes, let's have financially sound, intimate relationships, but let's be cautious of what I refer to or what I have come to refer to as financial goals extremism. So what do I mean by that? Say I like beer A that costs 100 rands. Now my partner, who is focused, actually bordering on obsession with our financial goals, comes around and says, hey, maybe you need to downgrade to beer B because it costs 30 rands less than beer A. So 30 rands multiplied by 4 weekends. Let's assume that I drink every weekend. So that is a lot of money that we can save towards our couple savings. Cool. So whilst partner makes sense, but I mean, look, what if I don't like beer B and I've been drinking beer A for most of my life, or well, for since I could afford to buy beer A. So yeah, so like what if I don't like beer the B? So now must I fold because we need to reach our financial goals quicker? Uh, no, I do not agree with that. I think we can still achieve the goals whilst not sacrificing, quality of life. The little things that make us happy, you know. Look, I work very hard to afford beer A, and it makes me happy. I mean, it's just a beer after all. So, point is, let us be cautious of these so-called financial goals extremism, because like what is next? Are we now gonna stop buying sliced bread because it costs 2 rands more than unsliced bread? So I think we need to be also realistic in our goals as a couple. That let's just not to let's not be too extreme when they're going about these things. So that is my point. Thank you.
Um, Will, we've heard what you've said, and yes, tell tell your wife that you want beer A, because that story sounded very personal, and it seems like it's something that's actually it's actually happening, and you're venting to us that you want your beer A.
It's actually from the past like relationship. So yeah, I was just bringing that up. That I was once in such a situation where it was extreme. So yeah, let's just be cautious of that. We still need to be happy. at the end of the day. As Smiley said, I mean, like he wants to have dinner 4 times a month. So I mean, if that makes you happy, then have dinner 4 times. I mean, you can still achieve your financial goals. It means that it's just gonna take maybe a couple of weeks longer. You know, you still have to be happy at the end of the day.
I think the best comment I've heard today is I worked very hard for PIA.
Smiley, you wanted to add something? And user error?
Yeah, just picking up on what Will said, the goal can't be to save everything, right? The goal is that you must have a number. What percentage are you willing to save for the month? And once you've achieved that, enjoy the rest. To say that I'm going to save as much as possible without actually having a number, no, that's not a goal. And that's where I suppose people go wrong. For us, it was Black Cat peanut butter versus Yum Yum, and I'm the Black Cat. And I'm like, no, guys, you can't be, you can't compromise and shit like on peanut butter, So, anyways, just now you're gonna have a conversation between 1-ply and 2-ply, like. Give us a break.
Hey,
You always go 2-ply.
yo, it actually like got down to that type of level. Like you know what? Like we need to maybe start buying like 1-ply, like toilet paper, because look, you just have to roll it twice. It's the same thing. So like 1-ply, you just have to roll it twice to make 2-plies. So it can get really ridiculous if the guys are not cautious and reminding each the other that, hey, we might be overdoing this now, right? Let's just try to relax a bit. You can't save everything.
I'd like to see the cost of 2-ply in Dogecoin, to be honest.
User error?
I would just actually have to head out. I just wanted to say this has been a great Spaces. I love that you brought up the relationship and money and finances, and just really appreciate what you're doing. It's the first time I've interacted with you or any of you, and it's very cool that you do this, and I think the way that you host it is really great. So thanks for including me, and hope everyone's able to get their 2-ply toilet paper.
Thank you so much for joining.
See you guys.
Hopefully you join more. Peace. Speaking on toilet paper, I remember I actually had this discussion with my wife as well when we were doing grocery shopping. You know the what is it? Is it Baby Soft toilet paper? I really wanted the colored ones, and she was refusing, and she was saying it's more expensive, but like the pink ones look better than the plain white, and I unfortunately lost that argument, and we have plain white toilet paper. Michael.
What's up, man?
Hi. Your speaker is quite noisy.
Nah, I was just laughing, man. I was hearing 2-ply, 1-ply. Jesus, this financial conservative.
Michael, can you? I don't know. Are you using earphones? Can you use your normal speaker? We can barely hear you.
Oh, I was actually saying, I was hearing the 2-ply, 1-ply issue, and I was like, is this financial conservatism or is this being stingy?
Michael, if you want financial freedom, 1-ply is the way.
Come on.
And those tea bags? They last for, I think, 3 cups, a tea bag. It could work. And then, you just rotate like that.
Okay. Now, okay. I never knew about these. Wow, these tips. Wow.
5 years from now, you'll thank me. Trust me.
Yeah. You learn every day, but wow, in relationships. I always wanted to ask, who holds all the accounts in the relationship?
They are split equally. I mean, you decide in your relationship. You know. Sorry, Michael. I just want to divert. I'm just thinking about something. You know, Smiley. Like if my wife was like, you know what, we need to have lunch twice every week. Very likely at those lunches, I'd just be ordering starters and saying I'm full. You know, when I get home, I know there's 2 sly Albany there. I'll sort out the rest. Especially if I'm concerned about the finances.
McDonald's doesn't count, eh? McDonald's doesn't count. Have you seen the price of McDonald's these days? McDonald's meal, gee whiz, it's like $80. It's no more 35 rand, you know, all in. Never. Gone up.
I just order nuggets and, you know, eat them with like some Albany at home, and I know I'm good. But yeah, like Michael was saying, you know, this financial extremism doesn't really work. The point of financial well-being is to, you know, not starve yourself on your way there. But anyway, guys, I think we.
And I totally agree. Hey?
Oh, yes, Q.
No, I was just saying I totally agree that we work way too hard and we need to reward ourselves once in a while, which boosts us or energizes us to go back there and work even harder.
And
No, I'm in auditing, so I need joy in my life. I need joy.
But you know what the funny thing is,
all
right?
do.
What I've noticed about this, you know, like when you reward yourself, one has to also be very careful that you don't get addicted to that reward program, you know. So let's say if someone decides to reward themselves with an iPhone, you know, they're like, you know what, I've been working hard, I'm gonna buy myself an iPhone, I deserve this, you know. You buy your iPhone and now you need AirPods, you know, and you're like, you know what, let me just add on to that, you know. And then you're thinking, what's an iPhone without an iPad? And then you now go down that rabbit hole, and you end up spending more than you intended to in the first place. So one must always be wary, you know, when using that I'm rewarding myself slogan, that you don't over reward yourself and end up making bad financial decisions.
But isn't that effective marketing, time?
That was just an example, but yeah. But anyway, guys, I think we should close it off now. This was a really good discussion. Smiley, your other topic, I think that would be a very interesting one to tackle as well. And that's, you know, women obtaining assets, or women obtaining financial achievements, and how their male partners react. I think we can bring on more female speakers who can handle that conversation, and we can hear what they feel on their side. That was never really a topic that I thought of, so I'm really thankful that you pointed it out, both you and Q. I would really like to hear from a woman's perspective how they've had to navigate relationships when they are achieving more than their partner. But yeah, yes, Smiley, I saw you unmuted yourself.
I was about to say you can bring some men who've been on the receiving side of that, you know, of their women being overachievers. just to get a balanced view, you know.
Actually, yes, that's a good idea. But I don't know who's gonna volunteer to contribute in that aspect. Will?
No. I've never been in that type of a situation, but I would be interested to actually, hear from a male that has been in that type of a situation. Because look, like with us men, like we say that we are like progressive, right? We wouldn't have any issues at all if our partners were earning maybe 10 times more than what we earn. Yes, you saying that, but wait till you are in that type of a situation, right? Because it's one thing to like say that, no, I'm not gonna like feel anything. No, I am progressive, blah blah blah. No. It is easier said than done. Wait till you are in that situation, and now you have to confront, parts of your like masculinity that now comes to the surface. Like those are thoughts that now like you have to say, no, I don't like this. Is actually a wrong way to like think about this. No, why am I feeling threatened or whatnot, like etc. So yeah, it would be very interesting to actually hear it from someone who has been on the opposite end. So maybe Tez, you can send a mail to like, who's that guy that dates Oprah, right? Because I mean he's been in that position for the longest time. Right? So I think his name is like Stedman or what? Yeah. So maybe try to like, get him on the next spaces. So maybe he can shed some light as to how he has navigated that position.
Julius, you wanted to add something?
To be honest with you, what I'd like to hear is, sort of how people ended up in that position. I know, obviously, from a men perspective, men typically don't end up with women who are doing far more better than they are, and women also typically don't, guys who aren't doing as well as they are. So it'd be interesting to hear people's journeys in terms of how they got there and how they navigated it, because I think in both perspectives, it seems like it's a different experience for both genders.
Yeah, I think we can also tie in the prenup conversation as well, as to what they prefer, and try and basically hear from both sides of the story. I think all of that can tie into one topic, because I'm pretty sure if a woman is doing better than her male partner, the prenup conversation is likely to happen. Hashtag Zodwa Wabantu. So I think we can throw that topic in and just make it one big conversation. But yeah, guys. Let me wrap it up. I've got a conversation I have to attend to with regards to 2-ply toilet paper. I think we're going to be downscaling. It's been great. And as always, the recording is on YouTube. I will send out the link once this is done. And I will speak to Fred about the next topic and send out that communication. I will also be having a communication with Velar, which is the next conversation, hopefully on Tuesday. For those of you who don't know, Velar is the platform where you can buy cryptocurrencies. They did agree to have a conversation with me, so you might want to tune into that. We will also be joined by Andre Bothma, who's basically FinTwit's tax guy, who also asked to be part of that conversation. Once I do clear out all the details with Velar, I will send out as to when it will actually happen and at what time. And yeah, hope to see you there. And yeah, thanks guys for joining. The speakers, any parting shots before I close off?
No, thanks for having us, Tiz. As always, it's been real. Loved engaging with the community that you're building yet again. And Smiley, I think next time we'll all remember that we shouldn't call you out because you're going through the most. But yeah.
Cheers, guys. It was really good. Thank you.
Okay, bye everyone.